All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Burning Discussion. I'm Extermicide, and I'm here with my extreme guests. And today we are going to, I ain't going to touch base on topics yet. We're going to do our introductions, our self plugs, and blah, blah, blah. So, Ghandex, welcome back, my brother. We had a good
How's
show
it
last
going?
week.
Yes, we did. I thought it was pretty good.
How's everything going with you?
Everything's going swell.
Nothing new to
No
report?
complaints. Not really. Nothing on my front anyway.
Okay. And Xyphien, who had personal issues last week, we're happy to see you back, dude.
Thank you.
So how's everything on your end?
Um, Everything's doing pretty well. I actually I'm in the process and almost got it completely done, but I remade my company's website, Xyphien LLC, and for the showcase section, there we go. Sorry. For the showcase section, I have a lot of Knights of Ember, like I guess promotion on it and everything. So there's that too. And for those of y'all that don't know, if you are joining an NA, I guess player soon to be, then check out Knights of Ember. It's a relaxed, cool guild. But that's all the plugs I got.
Okay. Do you have a URL for your guild
Oh,
offhand?
of course. Knightsofember.com. Knights as in KNIGHTS OFEMBER.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Um, Anything new on my front? No. But as far as the burning discussion part of it goes, we are going to be joined by a guest next week. So look forward to that. And I am not going to say who it is.
So surprise guest. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I was approached actually.
Cool.
So okay. Um, with that said, I guess we can. Oh yeah, the one other thing I want to touch with guys. Really, honestly, the three of us work hard to bring this, to you, and it's the little things that can help us out a lot. And if you're watching on one of our streams, if you're watching on Zy's stream, Ghandex will actually be streaming soon, so that's why I have to ask, is there anything new on your front? How's it going? How's it going?
Yeah, work in progress still. So unfortunately, other real life things take precedence over that at the moment. But
And real life always freaking comes first. Um, it helps a lot, guys, when you give us those thumbs ups, when you subscribe to our channels, especially if you're watching the video on YouTube later. YouTube's algorithm has changed. Unless you give us those thumbs ups and you subscribe to the channel, and they're actually removing people's subscriptions from certain channels. So make sure if you were subscribed that you are still subscribed. But those thumb ups, the more of them a channel has, the more their video gets shown. And that's how they're basing a lot of their algorithm now. And that's why you see a lot of people asking, hey, make sure you like and you subscribe. It's not that they're trying to be annoying as hell. It's the only way that the smaller guys can get noticed against the big Goliaths. So that's the only thing I wanted to really throw in.
Going for that, for Twitch and live streams, which Ghandex is soon to do, and I'm also soon to do. The algorithm's simple. It's all based on how many people are currently viewing. So give both myself and Ghandex a view, follow, subscribe, whatever. I'm sure it'll be in the description of the actual YouTube video that'll be posted. So
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so are you guys feeling frosty, or were you ready to have a little bit of fun tonight?
sure, I have no
should
other
be-
questions.
Because we got a little bit of a fun topic, yeah. So the one thing when you're playing an MMO, the one item that you're going to use every single time you log in is at some point you are going to access your moon. And that's what we're going to revolve this whole conversation about tonight. And really, I don't know how far we can stretch it as far as a whole show goes, but really, I really want everybody to kind of think about what they can really add to anything that they're going to say. Um, I do want to start this off though, just to kind of get a feel. I know Zai hasn't played a lot of MMOs, so this may be an interesting topic. And Zai, you can just go by what you've seen from maybe MMO YouTube videos or something. But what I want to know is what game has kind of impressed you in the past as far as having some really good looking mounts.
Oh, I already have an answer for that, so I'm good.
So let's start with you then.
Okay, so I said this last time I was on, and I know a lot of people instantly disregard anything related to this game, but the Korean version, now keep in mind, I only ever played the Korean version, haven't played the United States, the US, NA, whatever it's called version. So, but the Korean version of Bless Online had the best like mount in my opinion out of any game that I've seen thus far. And the reason why is any wild creature that you've seen running around and just wild in the world, you can actually tame, and you're either get it as a pet or a mount depending on the type of creature. If it's large, obviously it'll be a mount. If it's small, chances are it'll be a pet. But regardless, you can find any type of creature that's in the world and tame it as a mount. And I thought that was an amazing feature. I love cosmetics, I love customization, I love choice in games. And the fact that you could go out and get any type of mount you wanted, and you would actually have to strive to like capture it, just made it that much more enjoyable in my opinion.
Can I ask why you kind of point more towards the Korean version where the mount's different from the North
I
American
don't
version?
know. I heard that the American version was so pay to win, as most in a Western games that come from Eastern, or yeah, right. But yeah, I heard it's so pay to win that I don't
So
know
the
if they even
game,
had that feature. They removed a lot of features and then pretty
okay,
much
gotcha.
made it a pay to win type feature. So I don't know if that was even in the NA version, but in the Korean version, it was. I heard so much stuff that changed about the NA. So I have to make sure to stress that the Korean version, which I thought was really fun, was that version that, for the mounts.
Gotcha. And Ghandex?
As far as my favorite mount in an MMO, I'd say Blood Elf Kodos from WoW. I don't know. I just always like the look of them. And the fact that they were smaller than your average, like Tauren riding Kodo, etc. But I mean, Final Fantasy has Chocobos, which are also, I played Final Fantasy since its inception, basically. So for me, it's nostalgia factor. But yeah, as far as like favorite, I'd say Kodos from WoW.
Well, I honestly didn't think anyone was going to choose WoW just because of the graphic type. I mean,
It wasn't so much like the it wasn't like the graphical visual. It was more of the when you're in a blood elf and it's smaller and its legs are going like hella quick to like maintain speed that the larger ones would have. I don't know.
gotcha.
I liked that aesthetic. And then like in WoW, when you ride a horse, you're on a slope. The horse is vertical. It just stays vertical up and down. There's no deviant. With the Kodo, you do. It actually follows the terrain, which I like. So I thought it was a interesting thing, and then it's kind of just stuck with me over the years.
Cool, gotcha. For me, it would actually be it was two specific mounts in one specific game, and that would be going back to Age of Conan. One of the mounts being a rhino. It was a giant rhino you got on. It was really freaking cool because the thing was just big, And when you saw a crowd of people, you could make this thing charge and just barrel through all the people and knock them to the ground and everything. Thought it was really cool. And then one of the mounts you received afterwards, after that, was a woolly mammoth. And you thought the rhino was big. Mammoth just put you up in the air so freaking high. You're looking down at everybody and you just felt, I don't know, you just felt like you were on this huge freaking beast, which you were, but I mean, it just felt grand. So I just kind of wanted to see, where our memories of some of the, some memorable mounts were and what games they were in. Wasn't expecting Bless, and I really wasn't expecting World of Warcraft, to be completely honest.
I would think that the more surprising part was that I go for an original WoW mount versus some of like a flying mount or one of the more exotic mounts. I go for a very basic old school mount, and
WoW has become such a mount hungry game that I would not be surprised if WoW ends up getting mentioned several times during our conversation tonight.
Yeah,
Not
So-
by me.
So okay, to start this off, so your first mount is available in the starter area in Ashes of Creation. And we're gonna touch base on the whole starter area and the starting mount in a little bit. But what I want to touch base with first is the fact that your mounts will be a physical item in your inventory. When the mount is summoned, it is removed from your inventory, and it's returned back when you desummon. Is it? I guess my concern here is where if you compare it to a game like WoW, let's jump right back to that bandwagon there. WoW has hundreds and hundreds of freaking mounts. How are we actually, doing this inventory thing with mounts in this game where it's not going to be taking up all your bag slots, or are we not going to be able to mount collect in this game?
So the game does that similar. It's called Albion Online, and they have the exact same thing. When you get a mount, it is in your inventory, and they don't have inventory slots. I mean, technically they do, but it doesn't make as much difference. They do it by weight, and now your mount weighs a metric crap load of weight. So if you have it in your inventory, it weighs a lot and you can't do a lot. But the moment you summon it, it goes into an activation slot, and you then gain weight because that mount is able to hold more weight. So depending on how they do their inventory system at the final release of the game will really determine on if it's going to be that I guess punishing to carry a mount and not have it activated, I guess.
So with the same regard for that, there's tiers of mounts, and then as far as skins go, you apply those skins to a specific tier of mount. So I'm assuming at some point you'll be able to swap skins, not necessarily willy-nilly, but you might have to go someplace and swap skins. So you might not need very many actual mounts to have a variety of different looking mounts, because I don't believe skins shouldn't be taking up any inventory.
I'm thinking each tier mount is going to take up an inventory slot. So as we know it right now, you're going to have 3 tiers of mounts, or we'll have 3 slots that are designated to your mounts. I'm hoping that maybe we have a skins tab or something where our skins get stored.
It might be like that. You might have to go to a tavern or something. We don't know yet. I know they're trying to make a lot of things where you can't just change it on the fly. You're gonna have to go somewhere to change it.
Yeah,
So,
but skins, I don't think. I think they're gonna have skins kind of like a Guild Wars 2. So you'll be able to pull up a little menu and change the skins, and that's it. And I don't see them making it all that punishing to change a cosmetic skin as you purchased it in the game. They seem very fair about stuff like that, and skins aren't really going to be a huge factor in the actual gameplay. it'll just, it's simply a visual effect. So I don't see them doing or making the person jump through a bunch of hoops to change it.
Well, I mean, I don't think going to a tavern is going to be jumping through a bunch of hoops, but I don't
Depending
know.
on where you
I'm just
are and what you're doing.
I don't think it's too far out of the realm of possibility where they're going to make you go somewhere to change your skin. Um, but with that being said, while there are 4 tiers of mounts, royal mounts, which a lot of the majority of the player base isn't going to have access to,
Yeah, like 10
they're
to
not going to
20.
need. So,
I was
and
trying
then
to watch it. I mean, during that last developer diary date when they were showing all the aquatic mounts,
Mhm.
Steven was switching mounts throughout that whole video and everything. I was really trying to watch, what he was clicking on
I
in his little
think
bag and everything, but he might have access to stuff that we'll never see.
I don't think it was that. I think he's just trying to showcase these are different mounts that you can get. Not that you need to have a bag full of mounts. So,
I like the idea of having a bag of mounts. It makes pre-planning uh a logical thing. If you're gonna go out, you're gonna want to pre-plan where you're gonna go. If y'all trying to go to a dungeon and that dungeon is, like 10 minutes of actual traveling time away, and you gotta pass a decently large body of water, you're probably gonna want to bring an aquatic mount and have it in your bag on top of a land mount. Switch them whenever you need and stuff like that. It makes actually like preparation a decently, uh big
yeah, and
deal, I guess.
and I fully agree with you, but 2 mounts in your bag to me is not a bag full of mounts.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
You know
well,
what I mean?
and
So,
actually, if you have one for all tier, 3 mounts is not a bag full of mounts. What I'm talking about is the skins. So I'm going to just assume that they're going to have a tab that's all your skin, where all your skins are
yes.
stored, so you can
Yes.
swap
Yeah.
that out.
I can't imagine they're actually going to take up actual inventory space, whether it's in your
Yeah.
personal inventory or in your bank or
I
And
stash
some
agree.
type
and some
inventory.
people are in the game for nothing more than just to collect all the mounts in the game, and then that's their big thing. And that would kill people. That would break a lot of people's hearts if that's what they were gonna do. You have to select what skin you want and trash the
Well,
rest for inventory's sake.
yeah. I think the skins are going to be selected, but what I see them doing, and it's a huge option in my opinion, is there's going to be a skin for each type of mount. Like you're gonna have, as shown on my stream right now, you're gonna have the turtle type mount, and that's something that you can actually capture and breed. But there's probably gonna be skins for that specific mount, so you're gonna have to own that in order to activate, the cool, extra skin for it, the cosmetic, if that makes sense.
Now, while I agree with you, I think that's how it should be. I have heard otherwise.
Okay.
Whether or not it's factual, because this is
Yeah,
speculation at the moment, but
of course.
let's say you have a horse that's tier 1 and you have a bear skin that's tier 1. Supposedly, you're able to skin that horse as a bear, even though that horse will then have all horse abilities, not bear abilities. But that's up in the air at the moment, so we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I can see some issues with that happening if that is how they do it.
I don't think it makes sense thematically.
No. Yeah.
Like if you have a bear and you have a different bear skin, that to me makes sense. But
Yeah. Especially if each type of mount has its own unique movement and abilities and stuff like that. If you buy a mounted skin for something with an OP ability, that is in fact pay to win. So
yeah,
I can
and
see
this
some
has
issues
actually
with that.
works out good because this actually ties into our next question. So, when you do mount your mount will have unique attributes depending on the mount to make them more strategic and provide things like defensive abilities, resistances, charge abilities, attacks, and varied speeds. So, with that said, let's theory craft here for a second. If mounts do indeed have actual attacks, what are you thinking, or what are you wanting to see from these mounts? What do you hope you see from as far as a kind of attack from a mount?
I would like to see something like Albion. Albion, I think, has a very well adjusted mount system. Granted, that game is almost exclusively a PvP game. I'm not a big fan of PvP, but regardless, I think their mount system's really good. Mounts don't actually attack. However, they have skills which some of them can use as an attack. For example, I have a giant tree, and I mean, this thing is massive. It's like 80 times bigger than your actual character. But it has 3 types of attacks. You have one where it lifts its like trunks up and it smacks people out, and it's a CC. It pushes everyone out of the way if they're trying to attack the mount. It also has a AoE heal where you can put up in the center and everyone that's in it gains health, and it has an AoE buff. Same concept, but it buffs their I think defenses. And that is considered a support class mount. And then you have the attack mounts, which actually charge forward and it'll knock people down and stuff like that. But they don't actually have legitimate attacks. And that's something I think would be really, really good in this game because I don't know. I can see mounted combat being pretty fun, but just having a bunch of people on mounts attacking each other, I think would further lag the servers and a bunch of other things as well.
So as far as what I would like to see in mounted combat is make things realistic for the type of mount. Like you have a horse, it has the ability to trample. You have a lizard or alligator type or dragon of some kind. They have a tail. They can do a tail swipe. If you have a cat, they could do a pounce kind of thing. Pounce and rake maybe. Different abilities based specifically off the type of creature that the mount is. I don't know about a turtle. Turtle could be more of a defensive type mount. There's a lot of possibilities, but I think it should try to flow in that realism of what the mount is.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
I would like to see things like rhinos being able to charge and knock things down, like I used to see in Age of Conan. A mammoth who can pick a guy up with his trunk and maybe throw him or something. That would be pretty cool. Horses that can mule kick and kick the person in the face behind them. And your turtle, man, I wouldn't want to freaking have a snapping turtle bite me in the balls. So I can see them being attacking.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all pretty cool. All right. So some mounts, as far as we know right now in this game, some mounts can be used in combat with their own abilities, but players will not be able to use their own class skills while mounted. So how do you guys feel about that?
I think it's fine. Maybe having specialized weapons that will allow you, i.e., if you have a jousting stick, you would be able to like plow into people.
It's a
Other than
lance.
that,
It's called a lance.
oh, okay, my
The
bad.
pointy stick.
But other than that, yeah, I think it'd be extremely broken to have people be able to attack while on a mount. The reason why you mount is to gain movement speed in games, and that's initially why they removed the attacking, because when you're attacking, you're more vulnerable to people on mounts because they can gain up on you quicker. But you have the advantage of actually being able to attack. So if you're able to attack while mounting, then there is absolutely no reason why you should ever be off your mount, which would remove a lot of, I believe, like just core values with Intrepid and also the game. It'd ruin the immersion for one and various other things.
So I do agree with that. I want to build upon that. We know that combat pets are going to take some kind of toll on their user, their owner, their controller. So with that being said, it makes sense that you are able to do combat with a mount, but you're going to take some kind of penalty for that. And with that, it means you can't use your abilities. You have to rely on the mount's abilities, which makes sense. Now, if they did do some kind of lance jousting system while that's technically specific solely toward tournament style duels, but most weapons can be wielded horseback. So if they ever did do some kind of update in the future where you are able to have mounted combat, they'd have to have an even greater penalty, because it would emphasize people to want to be on mounted combat, because you do gain that maneuverability bonus. Otherwise, they're going to have to do something with physics with mount speed and everything, where you're not able to turn as quickly. So people on the ground are more agile versus you, who are faster in a straight line, but you can't necessarily maneuver on trees as easily, etc. Which would be an interesting concept, but I've never seen it in an MMO, and I don't know if they're going to take the time to, execute that. So,
I'm almost completely in agreement with everything. Except I'm kind of on the fence on it. Also, I would like to see the ability as far as actual physical weapons to be used. So if I'm riding by you on horseback, I see nothing wrong with me taking my mace or my sword and chopping your head off, or whatever, or taking my pointy stick, the lance, is that what it's called? The lance.
Actually, you do bring up a good point. They did state that you're not able to use combat abilities. They didn't say you weren't able to do basic combat attacks. So that actually brings up a good point. You might still be able to be on mounted
Physical
combat
weapons I can see, because otherwise if I'm Oprah the Warlock and I'm riding around on my freaking horse and I'm going a dot for you, a dot for you, a dot for you, that's a little bit freaking overpowered. Come on.
A little bit, yeah.
But physical weapons, I would think that's something totally different. Yeah, in fact, as far as on a PvP aspect, that's kind of requiring a little bit of skill too. You got to be able to freaking ride right up close to the freaking guy, because, that's the other thing we have to freaking keep in mind too, is, which is our next subject, is mounts can be killed in combat. But they can be resurrected after a certain amount of time, and I don't think we really have any info regarding that time, do we?
Not
no,
that
I
I'm
don't
aware
think
of,
so.
no. But I can't imagine it's too long. I'd guess between 5 and 7 days, but I don't know.
Once
Real time,
again,
5 and 7
yeah.
days. But
I see it like this subject. Honestly, it seems that they have used a lot of Albion Online for this. In my opinion, they have something just like it, and your mount can in fact be killed, but all it does is it just forces a dismount, and you then walk a little slow for like half a second, and then you can walk normal, and then your mount is on cooldown for I think like 5 minutes or something. So at that point, you are essentially just trying to survive. If a PK or someone is trying to kill you, survive for that time until you can mount and leave. I don't think it'll be anything super long, just because that would promote a lot of just outright trolling, because you won't get any negative buffs. You won't get any corruption. You won't get anything for simply killing a mount. So what's stopping someone?
I don't know if we're aware of whether or not that counts as corruption, because the mount counts as you as well. So if they're attacking you, or if they're attacking the mount, they're also attacking you.
Yes.
So I think that would actually affect their corruption counter
Possibly.
to a point. Again, we don't know. It's too
Interesting.
early.
Because you won't get any
personally-
corruption just attacking someone. You're only going to gain and this is so far, and this is a thing. I don't recall who it was, but the active community on the Discord all say the same thing, that you only gain corruption if you kill someone. So a lot of people are already theorizing that there's going to be people that are simply attacking you, slowing you, and just trolling you until you finally fight them once so they can kill you without gaining corruption. So just, I guess, take that with a grain of salt.
I mean, that is a possibility, but as far as the mounts go, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility where it's 5 to 7 days, possibly less. But I know Steven did say specifically that you have to go through a process to revive your mount. It's not going to be as simple as a cooldown, and then you can
Okay.
resummon it. So there will be some kind of process, whether you have to go to someone who does animal husbandry and they're able to do it, or I can't imagine you go to a cleric, but that's possibly as well. I don't know.
You,
But there is
you
going
have
to be
to
some
go
kind of process.
to an Ashes center. It's like a Pokey center, but for Ashes of
Yeah.
Creation.
I'm almost feeling the need to freaking start a Gankers 101 website just to tell all the sneaky ways to freaking gank people in this game.
Well, so I can make you the website. Just hit me up.
Yeah.
I don't got the freaking time
I
for
don't
that.
think we need to encourage that on any more than it's already going to be there. But
All right, well, that brings us to our tiers of mounts. And correct me if I'm wrong here with any of this. So I want to discuss each of them. I'm just going to list them right now. As far as I know, we have tier 1, which is your ground and aquatic mounts, correct?
aquatic is possibly a separate tier.
Yeah.
We know there are 3 tiers of mounts. With that being said, there's also, according to Steven, there's 3 tiers of land mounts, there's flying mounts, and then there's aquatic mounts. So according to him, and the little information we do have, there are technically 5 tiers. Supposedly. Again, we don't know enough
Also,
yet.
he did say that flying and gliding mounts are essentially the same thing, and the only difference is
Okay, like I said, I wanted to go through the list here.
the
So tier
ability.
2 would be the gliding and jumping mounts. This is according to a list I found online. And tier 3 would be your true flying mounts, otherwise known as royal mounts.
Yes.
Okay, so you're thinking that since they just introduced the aquatic mounts to us, that they may actually be like a tier 4 for aquatic mounts?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a different tier. It's like tier 1.2.
Yeah,
It's,
they classified
tier
it as
1, but
tier
it's
1 because one of
separate.
the things that they stated about the aquatic mounts is that aquatic mounts are obtainable by taming underwater creatures. So I guess
I
you're
wouldn't
going
even
to
say
swim down and
underwater
tame.
creatures, because turtles don't breathe water. They come up for oxygen, so they're not an underwater
Gotcha.
creature to me. So
Yeah, but they might only be found in the actual water biome.
yeah, which is fine, but they're not, to me, they're not underwater creatures.
So to make everything completely clear, the only reason we have tiers is for the sake of the skins. Basically, what skin is going to be attached to what kind of mount.
Possibly.
At the moment, I believe that's
But
how it works. But again, we don't have enough information.
if water and land mounts are in the same tier, though, I don't know if that'll necessarily be a thing, because water mounts and ground mounts are different.
Yeah,
Water
that would
mounts can't
affect the
travel fast.
skins.
Exactly.
And I'm almost
So-
positive that they're going to be separate as far as function. They might function similar. Obviously, one goes faster on land, one goes faster in water. But as far as the skins go, I can almost assure you they're going to be separate.
Yeah, my brew
like I
bear
bet
can
you-
swim really fast because I got him. He's
Yeah.
actually a turtle with a brew bear skin.
And then if you have that ugly ass mount I have, the moth lion thing, then that would
that
fall under the
one-
gliding, flying, and also, since it's part of gliding as well, it would also fall in the jumping by what you said, and that's I don't see that happening.
I have the same skin's eye. It's a lion with moth wings, basically.
Yeah, it's ugly.
Steven has verified that skin can be applied to both the gliding mounts and royal mounts.
Yeah, and
if you have access to royal mounts. So
and that makes
I don't
sense.
believe they can all be applied that way, but some of them can.
That makes sense. But gliding and jumping, he listed in the same tier. So I was just using that
Which
as
I believe they are. Enhanced mobility is what I would call them.
Yeah. But I was
Okay.
using that as an example to prove that I doubt skins are going to be set in those tiers and not actually just by what type of mount it is. That makes sense.
I'm almost thinking they're gonna have to do more freaking tiers.
I think
so
they're just
I-
going to do land mounts. All land mounts, you can use a land skin potentially, unless it's a specific combat mount. I see that being decently easy because your bonuses, your buffs will be based off the actual mount you have attached and not the skin.
Yes.
And that way, all jumping mounts can have a jumping skin. All gliding mounts will have a, you can use a gliding skin. And I think that's probably the best way for them to do it, and probably the most. I think that'll be the way that they end up going about it, because it makes a lot more sense, both time wise, it's time efficient, and also logistically, it makes sense.
Alright. Well, that would bring me to my next. It's not even really a freaking question, because another kind of mount that we have are pack mules, and we know that this, basically a pack mule has the ability to carry, enlarging your inventory so you can carry a lot of items and everything. I'm assuming that's a tier 1 mount.
Yeah, pack mules. I believe you're gonna get fairly early on. I don't know if they're gonna count that as your first mount or not, but you should get it. Between level, I'd say by level 5, they may possibly level 10, but I'd say you get before that.
Okay. I was kind of hoping a pack mule would be in addition to your regular mount.
It will be. I believe. You might not be able to summon them at the same time.
Well, the reason I say that is because if we watch that aquatic episode again, there's that one thing that Steve keeps riding that has that big long ass nose, looks like
Yeah,
something
the
crossed with an
mule.
anteater. He says that's a freaking pack mule,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and he's riding it, so it's a mount.
So the difference, I know the difference between mules and actual mounts is the mules will go a lot slower. They'll be faster than walking, but they'll go a lot slower. And then they can carry up to 5 or 10 times your inventory. So the idea is that maybe not for the general populace, but people who are going to go gather specifically, they're going to take their mules with them to load them up. That way they don't have to go back to town as often.
Or someone who's traveling and selling stuff without wanting to
Yes.
get a
Traders
whole
would also-
caravan.
And now that you mentioned that, so okay, if your pack mule is out there, you're gathering, you got your pack mule. My question would be, if once you start putting stuff in your pack mule's bags or whatever, are you able to desummon your pack mule, or does he have to stay summoned now that he's carrying items?
Albion
would
has
think-
something just like that. The moment that you desummon him, all those items, so everything stays in your inventory, at least for Albion. I don't know how they're going to do it, but this is a way that has been proven to work. Is the pack mule essentially lowers your weight of what you can carry, and the moment it's desummoned, all that weight goes to your actual weight and not your pack mule weight. So the moment you leave the AoE area that you're gathering around the mount, your mule despawns and you go from 20% to 1,050%, and you're unable to move. So
So you'll have to
that's-
keep it summoned if you want to move.
yes,
Which-
but you can in fact unsummon it without any negative, without losing the items, I guess.
You gotta
So
remember, I'm going to be looking at this from a PvP or type viewpoint. So if someone's out there gathering and everything, and of course he has to keep that pack mule out because he's gathering and he wants to be able to move, it's kind of a target for the guy who's like, oh, look at that, there's a pack mule, I can go kill this guy or kill his pack mule and get his stuff.
Yeah.
And I believe that's actually how it's going to work. I don't think once your pack mule has things in its inventory, you're going to be able to unsummon it. Because there's that sense of a little bit of realism in there, but it's also that risk versus reward.
I get
You
it.
have the pack mule, So it brings at greater risk that if the pack mule dies, it will drop things just like you would if you died. It's not going to drop everything, I don't believe, but it will have the chance to drop things. But then there's that greater reward. If it doesn't die, you're able to carry 5-10 times your capacity back to town or back to wherever you're selling it or storing it.
I had to bring it up because WoW kind of had a stupid thing. I always thought it was stupid anyway. Everyone else loved it, but they had bags that hold your items, okay? And you could put bags inside of bags. So basically, you got to carry a hell of a lot more than you really should have been able to carry.
I'm not sure where you're going with this, but in order to unequip a bag that had, unequip a bag that was on your bag slots, it had to be empty. So you could put an empty bag in a bag, but you couldn't. It doesn't increase your carrying capacity; it actually lowers it because you have an extra slot taken up by that bag.
Yeah, maybe I'm just having a brain fart here. It's been a long time since I played WoW also.
I do know they had bags specific to certain materials. Like there was a mining bag, so it would, it was larger than a normal bag, but it would only carry mining specific things. And they had a bunch of different bags like that. So,
okay. So we're kind of getting off topic here a little bit. So another kind of mount that we do know that there's going to be is something called undermounts. You guys are aware of these?
No, but it does make sense. I assume that it's going to be a mount that goes faster when you're in the underground.
No. The description is the undermounts are temporary flying mounts which can be granted to guild officers during castle sieges. If the guild castle node is already established prior to the siege.
I have not heard anything of that. Where are you finding that?
That was on the wiki.
Really?
So that was brought up quite a while ago, like several years ago, I believe. Recently, it has been suggested that there would also be a burrowing type mount for the Underrealm. How that would actually work, I do not know. Possibly,
like a mole?
I mean, possibly it would be able to teleport you in a way from the surface to the Underrealm, as opposed to having to walk to specific locations in order to enter it. I don't like that thought of it, but then again, we don't know how these possible burrowing mounts might work, if they even are a thing.
At this point, anything that actually does give us a freaking advantage to get someplace quicker because of how big this world is and with no teleportation whatsoever, I'm kind of like thumbs up for anything that's going to get us there quicker,
I'm surprised they don't have a mount for the actual underground, because that will be a livable space. You can actually have nodes underneath there, and there's going to be so much extra stuff and space, and it's pretty much a huge secondary part of the world. It would make sense if there's mounts that would be faster underneath the ground, i.e.
And hell, you wouldn't be able to participate in a raid down there unless you have yourself an underworld mount. So you're giving your people more incentive to equip themselves ahead of time before going down there and doing what you got to do.
Exactly.
So let's look at this from a logical standpoint. The Underrealm, while it's underground, will still contain land masses and, I assume, bodies of water. So what prevents your normal land mounts and your normal aquatic mounts from functioning as intended down there? And why would you need a specific type of Underrealm mount that
Light
would
source?
somehow?
But
we don't know. One, we don't really know what the Underrealm's going to look like. From the concept art that I've seen, and for like most fantasy Underrealms, there is luminous fungus down there.
Yeah, it was that Avatar looking land, right?
True.
Yeah, there's always, at least in fantasy concepts, some of them it's pitch black, but most of them have some kind of luminous fungus where you can see. It might not be as clear as day, but you can still see and make things out. So
see, yeah, But for the pitch black areas, I mean,
But how are they going to do that visually for the players? Are we going to have like some Daredevil sonar looking screen when we're riding a mount, like so we can kind of not see where we're going and
I was
not run
thinking
into
some
things?
kind of mount that actually, and you've seen them like in certain plants in some MMOs where they have little things sticking out of their head with some kind of shiny light thing at the end. So it's
So,
almost like a headlight on
so
your
you
mount,
want an
you know?
anglerfish. You want an anglerfish with
Yeah.
legs is what you want. So we can
Basically,
light up our face,
or
but not see anything else.
hey,
So,
I'll
I'm not
be
talking
very
about
happy with a
appearance.
freaking hellhound that has very bright eyes. You know, I don't care.
I was thinking something like a blind creature that would be able to tell all locations. And I'm not saying make it blind for the player. That just it'd make it, yes, it would add immersion, but to the point where no one would want to go underneath the ground. There would have to be some visuals, but having mounts specific for that, if they're blind and able to traverse faster because they know the area and they're able to pinpoint everything via what is sonar or whatever. You know, I mean, I think that would be a cool feature personally.
Hey, Smiley. Yeah, I can
I'm just
only
trying to
imagine.
think where it would like okay, so that mount has sonar, but how do you, the player who is controlling the mount, dictate where it goes? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for actual blind people, they have seeing eye dogs, and they control those and they dictate where it goes. They help them find their way. It's not faster than the car. It's not even faster than walking most of the time.
It's faster for them if they were.
Well, it is
driving
it is faster for
I
them,
mean,
but it's not
they'd
faster.
crash it instantly. So I think it is faster than a car for them. But yeah, I see where you're going.
All right, we ready to move on from this?
I'm down.
So we don't know about underrealm mounts. That's what this
Yeah,
comes up to.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I never mentioned anything about underrealm mounts
Yeah, I
because I didn't even know if that was such a thing. But like I said, there is something called undermounts, which is basically the guild leader gives them out to his generals during the sieges. So interesting. I figured.
So I wonder if
figured Zai would know all about this.
I wonder if that's going to bring up that there's going to be a castle or a couple castle nodes in the underrealm.
It has nothing to do with the underrealm.
Well, why are they under mounts then?
Because it's your generals who are underneath you. If he's the guild leader,
okay, I guess we went
his
and got
generals.
off topic. We misunderstood what you were asking.
Okay,
it's the name they chose. So again, I'll read the description. There's what is known as undermounts, which are temporary flying mounts, which can be granted to guild officers during a castle siege if the guild castle node is already established prior to the siege.
And this is actually new information. Steven just stated this July 19th of this year.
Okay,
so it is still up to date.
So this is one thing I've never heard, and I did hear something about like sort of flying mounts in the underrealm, but and that's, I guess, undermounts is where I transitioned to underrealm almost immediately. I guess that's my bad, but for not listening. I don't see it being a bad thing because I assume that they would have a limited flight range, but then again, I don't know.
I'm just wondering how many, because they're always saying you're only going to see X amount of flying mounts at any given time, and if you get two guilds going against each other, how many flying mounts is the guild leader going to be able to hand out to his officers? How many officers are you allowed to have?
I can't imagine it would be more than 10. It might not even be that many.
Because from what I understand, from most flying mounts, which are considered royal mounts, but most flying mounts have an attack of their own too.
Yes.
I don't know. So I don't know what a phoenix can do, but I mean, a dragon I think is pretty limited to the guild leader, correct? So he's gonna have like the strongest friggin' attack.
So the exact quote is literal wormlings that you can grant to officers if you're a castle owner, and they can fly around too. That is all that's stated. So I'm assuming it's just for transportation purposes only. I doubt there's going to be any attacks because it is in fact pretty much baby wormlings.
But it's during a siege, though. So ideally, it's not like they're going to be like, "Oh, let's get this and run away." It's probably going to be more for deployment
Baby wormling. Is that those
things. But
butterfly-looking creatures?
Let
you
me
need to
check.
play more fantasy games. You don't know what a wormling looks like.
So,
Hey.
do you know that thing that dove into the ground in the mountain video? That was what, last week?
Into
Yes.
the water, the blue
Into the
phoenix.
No, not the blue phoenix, the brown dragon thing with
looks
like the
kinda like a
weird
dragon.
wings. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a wormling. So think of that, but like smaller.
So that reminded me of one of those dogs, those puppies that are born with absolutely no hair whatsoever, the Sharpays or whatever. Yeah. So that's what a wormling is. It's a dragon with no scales or anything, and it just looks pitiful. All right, so we got one last out then. The Kickstarter, the crowdfunding campaign. We apparently unlocked the ability to have multi-passenger group mounts. And what do we know about these group mounts, since they are definitely going to be a thing because they definitely met that amount under Kickstarter?
So keep in mind with the Kickstarter, and this was stated during the Kickstarter, any extra goal, extended goal, I think is what they called it, that they reach isn't necessarily going to be there during core release. So this could come, a few months to a few years afterwards, but it will eventually be in the game guaranteed. Essentially, is what all those extended goals are.
And I don't honestly, I believe that the group mounts are going to come pretty rapidly. If they're not with launch, they'll be here within a few months. Like, I don't believe it's going to be very long before we have group mounts.
I almost think they're almost like a necessity in the game, to be honest with you.
Possibly. I know there's going to be a variety of PvP uses for them.
It would
Definitely during
help.
sieges.
And the only thing is, the reason why I think it might not come on release is I can see a huge factor playing in for Zergs, and that's one thing that they are trying to discourage, highly. And I'm thinking that they might need to work everything out to make sure that there isn't a way for people to just abuse it and Zerg with those mounts.
And you just said Zerg because one of the videos I did watch, someone mentioned, because one of my big questions is how many people can one of these mounts carry, and this guy described it as a busload of freaking people on a mount. And I'm like, well, that's just I'm thinking, multi-passenger mounts being, maybe two, maybe three freaking people on the mount. I'm not thinking a busload.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine it would be more than 8. I would say a group mount would be able to carry a full party, which a full party is 8.
I mean, even then, that would make Zerging
It's
super
it's
easy.
it's still a lot. I don't even know if a group mount will be able to carry that many. I cannot see them carrying more than that. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I'm
So,
thinking maybe 4 and under, but if it is a
And-
lot, yeah.
so with that being said, I can see a variety of uses for PvP with them. I can see a variety of uses for just transportation purposes. If you and a couple of buddies are just traveling to wherever, it allows one person to have to control it, and those other people don't necessarily have to pay a whole lot of attention. I wouldn't say that they get to go AFK for an hour and a half while you're doing that, because then it leaves you open to attack and no one's there to help defend you. But that's a possibility as well.
All right. Moving forward, because you know what, we're approaching an hour here already, and we still got a bunch of stuff to cover. Okay, so ways to acquire a mount, and there's actually, as far as I see it, there's actually 4 different ways. Number 1, taming. Anything we want to actually state about that?
Taming, there's not a whole lot known about it right now. It is going to be part of the artisan system. I believe it will be separate from animal husbandry, but we do not have confirmation on that yet.
Second way of obtaining mounts would be animal husbandry itself.
And we kind of touched on this last episode.
For economy. So
Yeah.
give animal husbandry a brief definition.
So with that being said, you get 2 mounts and you breed them and you create another mount. Ideally, you're looking to get better abilities out of that bred mount, and then possibly throughout its bloodline, you can breed really powerful mounts that do not necessarily everything really powerfully, but you can, let's say you breed a mount that attacks very hard, or you breed a mount that's extremely fast. That's something that you're going to aim for with animal husbandry.
That's your brief description of animal husbandry. That was brief.
One of the biggest things about animal husbandry is it's one of the only ways to find a dragon egg as well. It's one of the few ways of actually obtaining a dragon, just period. So that's why a lot of people want to go with the animal husbandry, because it would essentially be a decent way to get that rare drop and then selling it for several $1 million or however much it's actually worth.
So
the animal husbandry doesn't give you the mount. It's where they hatch the egg for you.
It will still give you the egg, but you will still own a dragon egg that you can fly with it. Don't shake your head. It is it's an actual thing. I looked this up because I had an argument with someone because I thought that sounded too OP, but I looked it up and Steven actually came out and said it. It's in the it's on the wiki too somewhere. I'll try to find it.
Because I have listed as the third way of acquiring mounts is rare drops from certain bosses or dungeons, which is where you would get an egg. In order to hatch the egg, you have to bring it to someone who has mastered animal husbandry.
They also have to have a certain type of stable for it. I think it's called a royal stable, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense why you would be able to just find an egg. This isn't Pokemon where you just leave random Pokemon and then they crap something out that's totally different from what they are.
Especially something as legendary.
Are dropped as eggs that can be cultivated through the animal husbandry profession for artisans with high enough stable upgrades on their freeholds.
Cultivated hatch does not necessarily mean that you find them there.
Royal mounts are dropped as eggs.
Yes,
is what it said.
Yes.
Yeah. Off epic bosses and dungeons.
So I think there's a mistranslation there. Cultivating doesn't necessarily mean that you're obtaining them out through animal husbandry, because that just doesn't make any sense. Hatching it through animal husbandry makes every bit of sense. But
we can fight an epic boss. The egg drops. I can have this egg, but there's nothing I can do with it if I don't have animal husbandry mastered myself. I have to pay someone.
He has to pay someone
and cultivate this thing for me. And the last way of getting mounts is, of course, your starter mount, which will be available at the very beginning of the game through quests. And like you said, it might actually be your packing mule, which would absolutely make sense. Now, what I'm understanding too is that every race has its own unique mount. So in your starting area, your first mount and everything will probably be very unique to the race that inhabits that area, because we already know we don't have to start in a particular area. If I'm an elf, I don't have to start in the elfin area. I can start with the dwarves because that's where my buddies are. But that would also mean that during my first quest, the first mount I get will probably be something that's relevant to the dwarves. It's kind of themed towards them, like a little ram or something.
And that's possible. It also might be based on your race, not based on the starting area's race. But again, I don't think we know just yet. But before we do move on, I want to mention there is a fifth way to obtain mounts, sort of.
Please.
You mentioned animal husbandry. Well, the people who have animal husbandry can create those mounts, etc. Then they get to sell those mounts. And then you, if you don't have it, can purchase those mounts. So that is a sort of fifth way to obtain mounts.
Oh, actually, that's something that should not be overlooked. If you're really good with your money and you're really good at playing the economy, buy it.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. All right. Now I wanted to get your guys' opinion about something. One of the freaking actually, I think it was two episodes ago.
Oh,
We
I
were
was
talking
there.
about we were talking about the Korean MMOs, and I said one of the ones that I played was Ion, AION. Some people pronounce it Aeon, Ion. Anyway, one of the big things about this particular MMO was when you got halfway through your leveling, your character sprouted wings. Okay. Eventually, by final level, you're going to be able to fly all over the place with these wings. And if you're on the good faction, there are white wings. If you're on the bad faction, there are black wings. Of course, that's all point of view as whether or not you're good or bad. But whatever. But when you reach the halfway point of leveling, you got your wings for the first time, but you couldn't fly with them. You could only glide. And one of the things that was really freaking cool with that game was if you were at the top of a mountain and there's a freaking, big giant clearing down there, there's lakes and all that and everything, you could basically just jump off the mountain and just glide all the way down. Do we have any confirmation that this is how gliding is going to work in Ashes as far as our gliding mounts are concerned?
Not that I'm aware of, but it would make sense. And they might not have, an infinite glide. Like you can glide from here until you hit land or something else. It might be more Wind Waker-ish, not Wind Waker, Breath of the Wild, where you have sort of a stamina bar for your gliding mouse. So they can only glide a certain distance. And you might have to regulate that and figure out what is optimal and how you can get a farther distance. We don't know yet.
Okay. And yeah, one of the other cool things it was with the Ion too is when you're doing that descent, there was actually a wind pressure, because you're going against it, and if you tilted your character just right, you could kind of glide, a little bit. Not like if I wanted to fly to that next mountain, once I'm down below it, there's no way I'm going to gain that much.
And they might
upward
might have
momentum.
wind currents. That would if there was a stamina aspect to it, that would, or even if they didn't have a stamina aspect to it, if they had certain wind currents, you could travel farther.
Because it would be something really cool since flying mounts are so limited and everything. If gliding mounts actually have a lot more to them than just being able to glide 2 feet off the ground, I could see them being a lot more usable, a lot more feasible. Even give you a little bit faster travel if you're jumping off a mountain and you need to get way down there into that freaking valley.
Yeah, and they might. We just don't know. Zai, you have any input on this?
I think it makes sense if they did it that way. I mean, they're all for immersion and having actual gliding feature, like what he said would be good. I think it's something that's probably gonna happen. If not, I think they would probably use another word other than gliding, but that's just me.
All right. So moving on. Royal mounts are available to mayors of a metropolis node and kings and queens of guild castles. They can be dropped from legendary world bosses. We already kind of went through all this. If dropped from a world boss, then the mount will have a lifespan between 2 to 4 weeks, after which the mount will die. I think we all knew that already. Do we have any thoughts to add whether or not we like that or don't like that?
I mean, I don't necessarily like it or dislike it. I think it's a decent feature, and it really pushes you, if you get that drop, to think about what you want to do with it. Do you want to sit there and actually use it for those few weeks and try to profit off, traveling, sailing, selling stuff, and things like that? Do you want to use it as an advantage in combat, or do you want to sell it for a quick buck? Because more than likely, they are going to be worth probably more money than you'll be able to obtain naturally in like a year. I might be over exaggerating, but
I think that's a little over.
Yes,
I agree they will be very valuable.
yes,
I don't think they're going to be.
and yes, it's probably going to be an
that.
exaggeration, but the fact that only 10 to 20 people on average will have a flying mount on, at one.
Which means a majority of us will
At a
never
time?
have the
Exactly.
opportunity to actually fly one.
So
So
it
yeah, that's where
really-
my standpoint would be. Is I would actually, the very first one I get, I probably would actually use it. But if I ever got another one, sell. I've done it.
I don't know. I'd probably end up selling my first one, and then if I get a second one, potentially using that. I don't see a purpose in having it once you achieve it, because at that point you probably won't have the finances to actually benefit off of it. If you sell that first egg and then somehow manage to grab another one, chances are you will have enough money at that time to be able to.
But see, you're kind of looking at it too from a different viewpoint than I would look at it, because you are a guild leader. You stand a much higher freaking power probability of being able to fly one of these mounts than I do. And that's the thing. I gotta rely on the whole freaking egg thing where, hell, you get voted in. You get that. We win that castle siege for you. You're in. And you got that freaking flying mount.
Yeah, that's assuming that we are able to own a castle or something like that with a casual guild like we are. The likeliness and chances of that actually happening is probably slim to none. So I'm probably in the same boat in my own, I guess, opinion on the whole egg thing and flying mounts.
Yeah,
Very
I mean,
cool.
I think having one would be very cool, but at the same time, I think it would make more sense to either A, give it to someone possibly in the guild that can utilize it to a better effect than I can,
Give?
or, well, maybe not give, sell to, you know what I mean. How
What are
about
you talking about? One of the most valuable
um,
items in the whole freaking game. Give?
But at the same time, I might want to sell it. I'm going to be a blacksmith. I'm not going to need, I don't think, to travel extreme distances in a quick amount of time for a short period of time.
You can buy resources for cheap. You fly,
but there's
across
going
the
to be
world.
traders specifically for
Yes.
that. If
But it's
they can do
not-
it fast, they can do it faster than me. They have the time to dedicate to it, where I want to dedicate time to my forge. I can then, I don't know, trade them the mount for discounted product, or possibly even a crap load of free product. I'm just saying there's possibilities out there that would make better sense for me to not have the mount and to give it to someone else who does. And maybe not give, trade, sell, etc. But you guys know what I'm going with this.
Okay. I get you. Okay. So I actually wanted to freaking touch base on something I just said a minute ago when I was describing the royal mounts. I said royal mounts are available to mayors of Metropolis Node and kings and queens of Guild Castle. That'd bring up my next question being, and I'm going back to Zai with this. Zai, is your girlfriend, your wife, playing the game also?
Yes, I bought her. I think she has access to Alpha 2. So I mean, or my bad, Beta 2. But she will be playing.
Okay,
As
so
of what she's going to be doing, I'm not entirely sure.
well, yeah, I mean, this brings me to the question where if we, as a guild, end up taking the castle, and you're the guild leader and everything. Now, if your wife, your girlfriend, if you guys get married in the game through the marriage system, then technically, if you're the king, she's the queen. So does that mean both of you are awarded one of these royal mounts when you take over the castle?
I doubt it. Now, who knows? But I'm assuming that it will be whoever is actually on paper assigned to it. More than likely, it's going to be a singular handout of whoever's in charge. So if she happens to found it, and she's in charge, she would have it. But
I think
you
it's
know,
actually really a nice plus to put on that whole marriage system thing to make the marriage system more, robust and little things that you gain from being married. If you're the
Well,
queen, I get my own special mount too. It kind of makes sense.
if you want to look at monarchies from a realistic and historical aspect, like Queen Elizabeth, Queen of England, her husband, Prince Philip, is not King Philip, because you don't gain that title unless you are the monarch, and monarch is singular. So if you look at it that way, and I don't know how like French monarchies did it or German monarchies did it, but I believe it was in a similar fashion. So, and those are, as far as I'm aware, done and over with. But I don't know. I'm not that cultured, so.
Okay. Oh shit.
and on top of that, the marriage system already gives you a decent amount of stuff. For example, you will be able to fast travel. How you can fast travel, that's still up for debate. But you're able to fast travel to family, which includes your significant other who you're married to. It includes if you do a rest with them in the same bed, you will get a higher buff when you log back on because you are in fact in bed with your spouse. And I think there's a few, but those are the only two ones that I know of. But I mean, even still, those are still bonuses you can get for being in a marriage. And of course you got, the ERP or ERP
Yeah.
aspect of the game too. So
Everybody loves ERPers.
right?
Okay.
Dear Steven, please make an ERP specific server so they can congregate together and leave us alone.
And we
But
need
yeah,
a special ERP mount.
Oh no.
I don't think we need to see more than.
It's what this subject is about, man. We got to stay on subject here. We need ERP mounts. Speaking of, our royal mounts have strong battle abilities such as AoE breath attacks, swooping flyby attacks, and others. These mounts usually take the forms of creatures like griffins and dragons. So, theory crafting here for a second. What other kind of flying mounts would you guys like to actually see?
Obviously, a phoenix. That would be iconic.
That's a big one. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen that already.
They do
maybe-
have phoenixes. I own a blue phoenix.
But is that a mount or is it a pet?
Actually,
a
the
pet.
one I own is in fact a pet. You are right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought those were pets. I haven't seen a phoenix. I haven't kept like super detailed
They
track of
might
it.
not add that as a mount because of the whole whatever. The fact that a phoenix is a flaming creature, it would,
So, wear fire resistant armor. Stop being a bitch. I would like to see outside of Western dragons. I would like to see Eastern dragons. I think that would be interesting. The ones that are more serpent-like.
Yes.
Like Shinron type.
Wow, I didn't even think of those.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the West just they have their view on what a dragon is. Then, for the most part, they just forget that there's a ton of different dragons. So, and me mentioning just Eastern dragons is in a way me being closed-minded, but
My mind went
see
in a
them
totally
add
different
there are dragons
direction.
that don't. Yeah, there are dragons that don't fly technically.
Yeah.
So,
And even those dragons in some cultures, they do fly. It's a magical flying versus a physical flying, which is still a capability that you could have in the game since magic is a legit thing. I can see them adding that as a Chinese New Year type of event where it's a limited edition skin you can buy for any dragon potentially.
Oh, I guess the skin's fine.
Yeah,
I was gonna
yeah.
say, I thought you meant like it was
No,
limited
no, no,
for
no, no.
during
Yeah.
Chinese New Year. I'm like, that's kind of lame, but
No.
How about a
like, if
giant
you have
bat? Would you like a
glider-
giant bat?
giant bat would be kind of cool.
spectral bat?
Since we brought up the whole holiday type thing, I think Santa's sleigh or a variant of Santa's sleigh would be kind of dope. But
Yeah, that'd actually be really cool, especially for a flying mount. That
Yeah,
like imagine looking up and you seeing
and
one
you
of
just
like
see, you
Wow,
just see
yeah.
Santa's
on the
sleigh.
server, just and I bet
That'd be
you
kinda
it even
cool.
have like a sound effect where you can hear like the or what whatever the Christmas bells noises.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right.
That'd
Moving right along, I'm gonna have to cut this one short because we just had a couple more things to touch, and I'm looking at time, and we're running out of time, boys. Quick tonight. So I already know the hard answers to this question. I just want to see if you guys do. Can someone on a royal mount swoop down out of the sky and gank you while you're questing?
I mean, possibly. I don't know why they would, but
Yeah, I bet you there's going to be some sort of dismount punishment. So if you dismount from a mount, you're going to have a specific cooldown where you can't actually attack. Like I keep going back to Albion does something similar. You can't run up on someone on a mount, jump off, and then instantly be able to attack them. You're gonna have like 15 seconds or something where you're unable to do that.
well, that just
I
means
think-
you need to be high enough up
Yeah.
and do
Well,
it. Wow, old school
As
style.
as
You
I said,
dismount.
I
And
know
then-
the hard answers to this question, and you guys are wrong. The hard answer is no. As
I mean,
these are
no.
because no, you will not be able to gank people using your royal mount abilities. These are used
Well,
only
yeah,
during
using-
castle
you
sieges.
didn't say royal mount
Yeah.
abilities. You just
Yeah.
said swoop in on a royal mount.
Can someone
I can
on a royal
dismount
mount? Wait.
in the sky,
Rephrase
You
the
never
question.
and then
said.
charge them before I hit the ground.
I said,
This is
can
recorded.
someone on a royal mount swoop down out of the sky and gank you while questing?
Yeah, you never said
You
abilities.
didn't say combat abilities. You didn't say mount combat abilities.
That indicates
On a royal mount, you can't use your personal abilities while on the mount. We've already deciphered
Get
that.
off!
Jump
We
off.
just said that. Get off the mount.
Yeah, what do you like?
I'm losing this one only because I'm ganged up 2-1. But you know what? I'm right. You know it.
No.
Semantics, but yeah. I know what you're saying, but I mean, I'm sure if they just stood there, if they were AFK, I'm sure you could kill them.
All right, since a royal mount is a very rare mount and is very hard to obtain, one thing I don't like is that when you lose your position of power, you lose your flying mount. Part of me, I mean, this is something personal to me, believes that you earned it, so you should be able to keep it. And at the absolute minimum, instead of killing off the mount, downgrade it to a tier 2 gliding mount. And I just want to see what your guys' thoughts would be on something like that.
I do think that's a possibility. I don't think they're just gonna like yank it away from you. I think it's just gonna lose its ability to fly.
Yes. In a few of their videos, Steven didn't have the ability to fly, so he gave himself a kingdom leader ability, and it gave him the ability to fly. And it was using the same exact mount. He never switched mounts or anything. So by that speculation, I believe that the moment you have that sort of power, you gain the ability to use the flying skill on a gliding mount.
So I think we all agree on that one.
Yeah.
Yay. So if you summon a mount, it causes it to appear beside you. Once it appears, you have to mount it to use it. And this actually takes a couple seconds of time. So it's not like your mount is going to be, the way it always has been in other MMOs, where to get out of a sticky situation, you just quick mount up and run. There is that little bit of freaking delay to summon the mount and then mount it. Your guys' thoughts on this?
I think it
think
adds a realism to it. It does kind of suck if you're not a PvPer. So you gotta be kind of like pay attention to your surroundings. If you see people coming toward you, you only have a few seconds to get that mount out, to get on it, to get away. So
It also adds a extra gameplay functionality, in my opinion. If you are gathering, you're not PvPing, you're always going to want to have your mount next to you. So even if you're doing something, let's say questing, you hop off your mount, you talk to them, but you keep the mount up. So once you're done, you hop back on the mount and you go on your, merry way. Essentially, if you don't do that, it is your own fault in a way, for not keeping that mount constantly up.
Okay. We have found out that both mounts and pets are able to be named. And I was actually kind of laughing earlier because when Zai was talking about having that whole blind conversation, having a mount that was freaking, leading the blind, all that. I'm thinking of having a mount now named Helen Keller, if that was the freaking case. So,
my!
It's a little inappropriate, I think, but
but you can have a mount named Angry Sue. She's always right.
I mean, Karen.
Karen, yes, Karen. That's what I'm talking about.
Karen and Kyle.
But I mean, I think naming your mounts is fine. Just like everything else they've said with the whole personalization thing.
Yeah.
If people are offended by it, it's it's gonna get reported. Action will be taken. So do your due diligence yourself and name it appropriately. I like the idea that I can personally, if I have a pet that I want to name personally, I can. I sort of liked WoW's randomized demon name aspect of it, but at the same time, I like the hunter pet type where you specifically got to name that pet if you wanted to. Otherwise, you just call it. I have a cat. It's called Cat.
Yeah, and as Steven said, it's your paid account. If you want to risk and jeopardize your account by naming it something stupid and offensive, by all means, do it. But once again, all that time, that money and investment that you put into that account will be lost. And
Honestly,
this isn't a free-to-play game. So
I know that I've had the ability to name mounts in the past. I actually don't think I've ever taken the time to name any of my mounts.
And you don't have to. It's just an option that you can take.
Yeah. It's kind of like
you can leave it as Mount 1 or whatever the default type of creature is. Horse.
One thing we don't. Well, I'm just going to keep this moving, Zai, real quick. One of the things is important, Zai. Am I cutting you off? Okay. One of the things that we don't know yet, and I kind of want to throw this out there because we're not live yet. As far as when the freaking store opens up, everything we're buying is skins. Okay, pretty much skins. With that said, what do you guys think are fair prices for skins? Where should these prices be landing at? Because I don't want to see $50 for blue.
I think how they are is fine, honestly. It's a medium range. It's $5 to $15 depending on what the skin is. Right now we're paying for exclusives, but even then, now you have games like Riot's new game, I forgot what it's called, but like a single skin for that's like $25 to $50. That's outrageous. But $5 to $15 for a skin that is essentially more than likely going to be exclusive to a specific time or something like that. I think the current prices are fair. So
with that being said, prices are a bit higher than you're saying. There are the low price points where it's $5 to $15, but there's also I bought a guild, not a guild, a freehold building skin that was $25.
Yeah, but that's an entire building. That's something that you're probably only going to have one.
Is that just one skin, or is that like a skin pack?
No,
that was
it's
one skin.
And you're only going to ever have that one. You're only going to really ever use that one. I think $25 for a whole house. I think it's a little steep, but at the same time, it looked cool enough. I was willing to pay for it. So
the look. I would have to absolutely hate the look of my house so much just to want to pay that kind of money.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a high. See, it said freehold building, so I don't know exactly what I can skin it as. But it looked cool, and I'm gonna have a forge, and I felt like it kind of fit the theme of that, so I went with it.
It's a question I wanted to ask because if Steve does, watch this, I want him to realize, where his public's head is at, what we think is a fair price for skins. And I kind of like that anywhere between 5 to maybe 20 at tops. That's kind of where I sit with it.
I know a lot of mounts. The skin for that is $20. Simple things like boots and some pets
Most
are
mounts are
$5.
15.
Some of the pets, some of the higher pets are 15. But it depends on what the skin is. And I think it's just personal preference whether you feel it's worth that much or not. I'm sure that Steven and the rest of the Intrepid team have done their due diligence with market research to see what the price point should be.
Okay. So as far as the mount system goes, we covered a lot of territory tonight, guys. We touched the base on a lot of topics. Some of it some of us didn't actually know, and some we did, and we actually got some nice insights on it and everything, and we actually thought outside the box, and hopefully Steve sees some of this and say, hey, that Christmas sleigh idea, that's fucking pretty damn cool. Yeah, I like that one. I I hope that we're actually contributing to the community in some way, shape, or form. So I was actually pleased with the way this goes. So I just want to end this right now with what our final thoughts are on the current mount system as a whole. What we just discussed the whole thing. Is there anything that we think it's lacking? Is there anything we think needs to be added to the mount system, or do we just think it's good right where it is?
I mean, personally, I think it's going in a good direction. I do believe that we need more information about the animal husbandry system. I have a few thoughts on how that would work. I also have an interesting thought I'll bring up at the end, just food for thought kind of thing, right before we end. Just let people wonder if that's fine.
It's fine.
I think the whole thing's pretty good as where where it is. This is also pre-alpha at the moment, so as for pre-alpha, I think it's perfect, and I think by full release they'll have everything situated to the point where it is a-okay.
Okay. I'm hoping that the reason we haven't received a lot of information about animal husbandry is because maybe in our minds we think it's a lot more complicated than it really is. And maybe that's why they haven't really divulged a lot of information for it. But if there is a lot more to it that we don't know, then I think at some point they really need to start sharing information about that to us. And again, I'm also very curious about the multi-person mount, what their grand plan is on that. Other than that, I think the mount system as it's implemented right now is well-rounded. I see little bits taken from a lot of different games. I'm really hoping the gliding aspect, being able to jump off tall buildings or mountains and just being able to fly, glide over a valley, it gives those of us who don't have a flying mount still that, that chance to experience flight in some shape or form. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that that's going to be in it. Otherwise, I'm really freaking pleased with it.
So, right before we end, I do want to just throw this out there. I don't want a response from you two. If you want, we can kind of discuss it after the stream. But so we know that there are legendary egg drops for mounts, and there is a cooking system. Can we cook the legendary egg? I think that would be something interesting. But all right,
Food for
guys,
thought.
it was a
Food
good
for thought.
stream. Yeah, food for thought, literally. So good stream. Leave comments below on the YouTube videos. I'd like to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that one. So
Yep. And if you're watching Xy over on Twitch, please give him some love. Smash that freaking subscribe button. And if you're watching me on YouTube, Trovo, DLive, or Twitch, give me a follow, give me a like, show me some love. Okay, and we will catch you guys Sunday with a guest. So
I guess.
look forward to that. So catch you guys later.